Hey, it's your boy, Sergeant Hooked on Heroes, with another brand spanking new review, Kamen Geats, episode 24. Overall, really interesting episode. Definitely a nice hybrid between a clip show, as we usually are used to in most shows like this, but also kind of moving the plot forward. So a lot of it is set up for a big kind of like game-changing thing that happens, literally game-changing. As we know, the sponsors and the audience are all, and most of the DGP staff are all from the future, right? They're all from the future, and they are like basically trying to force people to compete in it for their pleasure, blah, 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 blah. We don't know yet where Ace is from arrow-wise, nor do we know for sure that Kawa and Neon and Michinaga are actually real people or not. That's kind of like a scary thing to think about, I guess you could say. But it is, that's the setup as far as that kind of backstory stuff. So we start off with it trying to become like a normal episode, like it is, where it's like, you know, the little GGP background music, and it's like, hey, you know, this I'm Naram and blah blah blah. I'm the, you know, producer of this show, and this is Sumuri, and he's introducing himself and some of the people, and he's like, just kind of stay calm, you know, we're on a bit of an intermission, blah blah blah, and he gets interrupted by Baraba. Baraba comes through and says, you know, there's going to be a big change here. I am Baraba. I'm the sponsor of the Jamato. She explains what the Jamato are, that they are full-on living life forms that were originally created to be, you know, enemies within the DGP, but that they started to evolve. And once they started absorbing the ID cores of fallen players, have gotten more alien, or not alien, human-like qualities to them and are full life forms. And that she wants to, the goal of what she wants to do is to have the goal of the new, what's called JGP, Jamato Grand Prix, is to have the Jamato's goal to kill Naram, take his vision driver, get it to her so that she can clearly access the desired goddess, right? And so it's a big threat to the DGP staff and everything, and Ace is clearly pissed why they're not doing anything about Baraba right in that moment. We do get some little bits and pieces of information here and there, backstory, kind of clip show things, bringing people up to speed where people are at now. We find out that Ace was at the right place at the right time when he was attacked when he was in high school, and he was actually truly fighting even before he had any powers, any of the driver or anything. He was actually fighting on his own, fighting the Jamato, which I thought was really cool to see. I thought that was really interesting that he was, regardless of having powers, trying to stop the Jamato from hurting people. Shows that he's always had this heroic side to him and always had the quality within him to become a rider. And I think that's really important to show. I also get a bit with Neon talking about why she was picked by her sponsor, and that basically that they, you know, feel for her, that she can have a grand life, but she has to kind of fight for it and blah, blah, blah. And that, you know, she does feel lonely with the whole thing of being kept at home and not being able to leave, but that, you know, they know that she can overcome that and become a great warrior and whatever, and contestant, be successful, blah, 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 blah. Kawa is basically given the same pep talk by Keikara, who just admonishes him and not admonishes him, kind of just like peps him up, talking about you've always had the, like, you know, true aspect of being a rider within you. You always want to protect people, keep people safe, and you want world peace. Nothing more at the core of a rider than that. And even Baraba tells him, because she tells him that she's like, okay, now the Jamato are going to attack the city. They're coming for you. We're starting now. And so she orders Michinaga to leave, and he doesn't want to. And she's like, well, you're already half Jamato, so you kind of have to listen to me because I'm top bitch, basically. And he at first kind of seems like he's going to refuse, but you can tell that, like, he's really just working with her. He's not trying to work for her, and that he's not fully on her side. I do hope something happens where this whole Jamato infection thing on him doesn't stay, because I would like him to be a normal character again without the threat of becoming a fucking zombie. But I do like him, and that it's too much of, like, Baron from Gaim again. But I do like his place in the story and some stuff from the next episode form-wise for him. So he goes out and he's going to fight as well. So he's out there, you know, fighting with the Jamato against the riders. So it's Ace, Neon, and Kawa transforming and fighting with the normal buckles. And they're fighting the Jamato and stuff like that. We also get Jin out there along with Beroba, who are joined by the other two sponsors, human form Keikara and also Kuan. Because even Kawa's like, what are you going to do? Transform? Like, are you going to be a frog that transforms? A statue that transforms? How would you even do that? Or the henchins? How would you do that? He even says, Keikara, it's really interesting. He's in like the same pose as the statue, and he gets up. It's a normal guy, and he goes, how do you guys like this form I took on? Like he's not human normally or something like that? I don't know. But as you know, like people know, spoiler-wise, whatever, Beroba, Kuan, and Keikara, as of now, only have these big, giant, goofy animal CG forms right now. They're okay, but seeing them fight is kind of goofy and stupid looking, especially with Jin being in there, not in a animal form and just in his normal rider form. And I mean, like, I say that, but I really enjoyed Don Brothers having the whole Inner Brother, you know, Kiji Brother thing, but that wasn't like as in your face as this. This is like clearly going to be a lot of episodes of these goofy, stupid, like lumbering CG models banging against each other, looking like they're fighting. So I really hope they fix this and at some point they get normal rider humanoid forms, but they may not. Who knows? I don't know. I also have a theory that each of the sponsors is going to eventually relinquish their Raise Riser and ID card little thing to their sponsored rider, and that'll be their upgraded form eventually. I think that would work pretty well. We already know it's coming for Geats with Boost Mark II and Laser being the Laser Mark II form, and also just the Boost Mark II form. But anyway, so interesting that it showed Ace in high school transforming and fighting and whatever, because that kind of throws out the window the theory that he was from an ancient, time long ago, right? Even he tried saying that. But again, you have to remember with Ace, even though he says something, it doesn't mean anything. He's always trying to come up with some kind of manipulation, lie, or some other kind of fabrication to make people think a certain thing so that he can give himself extra time to find out if A, they're useful, B, they're a friend, or C, they're an enemy that he needs to take out, right? Always trying to think. He's always on the offensive, ready to figure out a solution and take care of business, right? And that's what I really like about him as a main rider. I think that's a really cool thing about him, honestly. So they're all fighting, doing their thing, bing, bang, boom, all over the place, whatever. And we get a bit more about the JGP that, it's going to be all about the Jamato and stuff like that. And, Naram is the main person they're going to go after to take the Vision Driver and all that. And so yeah, that's a main chunk of what the episode's really about. That's really what the main plot was for it. Overall, it was really, really good, but I think that too much was the backstory type, fillery, if you will, clip show stuff that I feel like the JGP stuff was cool, but it should have been first and had that other stuff a little bit second. Maybe even throw in a thing, tie those together and have it be that she was creepily spying on all of them, and that's how she knows the information that she's displaying to everybody about them, right? So I do overall enjoy the episode, but again, it's probably one of the weaker ones just because of what it was trying to do overall. But I still think it's a decent episode. Probably would give it somewhere around a 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. I know this is a bit shorter review, but there isn't just a ton to say about it, really. There are some few fights, and we do get to see the main three transform together, and they fight together, and it's pretty cool. But again, I don't really care as much because, again, I want to see what's going to happen next. And for next week, oh boy. Not necessarily Boost Mark II yet, but we see my boy, Buffa these nuts, Buffa these horns, get Buffa these twin command buckles, baby. He gets to use the twin command buckles, and he looks fucking beautiful. Holy shit. And something that Zio Agato mentioned in his review that I hope is a thing is that I hope that he uses the form a lot differently than what we see Ace and Kawa do with it. Ace does it with shooting these long range blast. Kawa shoots these little starburst of little balls of energy. I wonder if he's going to do it differently because anytime we've seen him ever use a gun weapon like the water buckle or magnum, he uses the gun like a club basically. So I'll be really interested to see if he even does anything with the cannons at all. But again, it's just cool to see the Buffa suit combined with any other buckle to see what it comes up with. I do hope there's some resolution soon to him not being Jamato anymore or having some kind of control over it where it's not making him undead and gross looking, and then he gets some kind of combined purified form or something. I just want more from him, and I don't want him to keep getting the scraps of other people's buckles and stuff like that. But I do enjoy it overall conceptually, and I think it's really cool that he's getting access to it. But let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this week's episode. Again, I'm sorry for a shorter review. There just wasn't a ton of giant plot things that happened. And if I'm missing some stuff, definitely throw me under the bus in the comments and let me know. But with the bigger things clearly being the Jamato, the JGP, Jamato Grand Prix now, that the whole point of it is the Jamato trying to kill Naram and take the Vision Driver, and the rider trying to protect him from that happening, clearly. So I definitely see that being quite the contesting point in terms of plot for everybody involved on the show, especially because I have a theory that the reason that the Laser Raise Riser and the Boost Mark II buckle are bundled together in the same set is not just for ease of having another set out there for you to buy. I mean, that's part of it. It's Toei, right? But also, I do kind of get the idea, not only with Jean being younger than Ace, but also idolizing Ace, that there's going to be something tragic that's going to happen. I feel like something's going to take place where unfortunately, Jean either purposefully or not purposefully, like as a mistake or as a not supposed to happen, is going to somehow sacrifice himself to save Geats, leaving behind his laser raise riser for Geats to use and, give him access to the laser boost Mark II form. Because it would be weird for them to make another one just for Geats to use. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will do that and Jean will be around for a while. I don't know. But something about him is not off in the way I think he's evil, but off in the way where I think there's a bit of a red flag over him in terms of like a death flag. And I feel like it's going to be pretty tragic because him and Geats have gotten along pretty well and become sort of friends. I mean, Ace doesn't fully trust him, but again, they are like fairly close-ish, and I think it would still be tragic and sad to see somebody so young that supports him so vehemently be one that loses his life and ends up giving his power to Geats, essentially. Because on the back of the ID card for Jean is the Geats ID core. Each one of them, each of the sponsors on the back of their cards is an image of the ID core of the rider they're representing. So, but overall, really good episode. Again, it was a decent episode. Not my favorite, but again, not the worst ever. Like I said, 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. Next week's going to be fucking amazing. As far as the podcast, we're going to be talking about Dom Brothers. It's going to be me, Frankie, Brokusatsu, and of course, Zio Agito coming back on to discuss Dom Brothers at length as far as what we loved about it, what we weren't a big fan of, which isn't much at all, and just in general throwing some love and happiness on that show. But thank you guys so much for watching, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. I really, really, really appreciate it. Definitely subscribe for more Toku content, episode reviews, toy reviews, henshin videos, collaborations, whatever. But as always, stay hooked on them heroes. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.